everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and it's a sad news video today for a couple of reasons, but of course we do have to report it and we want to give all the information to you as and when we can. So without any further ado, let's get to those headlines. First of all, in very sad news, former WWE Superstar Shad Gaspard is missing off the coast of California and the search has been called off. Next up, an injured superstar did return to Monday Night Raw last night. And finally, a big match has been set for the upcoming Backlash pay-per-view. All this and more in just a second. The LAPD has reportedly called off the search for Shad Gaspard after the former WWE superstar and still very much active independent wrestler went missing after an incident at Venice Beach, California. Gaspard was swimming at Venice Beach and is said to have been caught in a rip current and pulled out to sea. There was a bit of a rescue operation taking place, but since then, when he disappeared and was apparently pulled out to sea, he has not been seen since. According to TMZ, Shad and his son were among a group of swimmers caught in a strong rip current around 4 p.m. local time, of course, with lifeguards racing into the water to pull everyone out. And one eyewitness said to TMZ that apparently Shad was directing lifeguards to save his son first before turning their attention to him, which, if that is true, is an incredibly heroic action. Reportedly, shortly following this, this was the last time Gaspard was seen. He was apparently hit with another big wave. Witnesses believe he did submerge and he hasn't been seen since. And obviously now that we know that the search is being called off, it's becoming increasingly a very tragic and very heartbreaking story. Shad will of course be most known for his time with Crime Time alongside tag partner JTG in WWE. But since leaving WWE as well, both he and JTG remain very active on the independent scene, wrestling all over the place and entertaining fans as best they could. MVP posted this on Twitter saying it was at the request of Shad's family. He says, Shad's family appreciates all the love, support and concern through this horrible ordeal. At this time, they are not ready to make any public or official statements to any media outlet and ask all to respect their wishes. And unfortunately, this isn't the only tragic news we have to talk about this morning. If anybody is familiar with wrestling writer Larry Csonka of 411 Mania, it is again very sad news to report that he apparently passed away yesterday. 411 Mania announced on Twitter yesterday, in news that has left us all absolutely devastated, we're extremely sad to announce the passing of Larry Csonka. Larry was obviously an icon for his writing, but more importantly, he was an amazing husband and a father who had a family that loved him dearly. Just on a personal note, I've been reading Larry Csonka's reviews of various different shows for many years now, long before I was ever on camera doing this job, and he really did have a consistency and a dedication that rivaled even Dave Meltzer's. He was incredibly dedicated, incredibly driven, and his reports were always about as informative and not unbiased, but about as objective as you realistically could be. But then that's not to say that Csonka wasn't a very opinionated writer as well. He could and would let you know if he did or didn't enjoy something to a strong degree. But generally, if you wanted to find out what was going on a big wrestling show, you would always log on to 411 Mania and check out his TV recaps, because really they were the best in the business. You can't get better than that. Also, it's just obviously very sad news to hear of his family and everything like that, and he will, I'm sure, be sorely missed. And it goes without saying that all of us here at Cultaholic are both keeping Shad Gaspard's family and friends in our thoughts at this time, and also expressing our condolences to the family and friends of Larry Csonka. Now let's move on to some wrestling news that we can actually, be happy about. An injured WWE superstar has returned to action last night on Monday Night Raw, and it is none other than Kevin Owens. Now, if you remember rightly, Owens was thought to maybe have sustained an injury during that WrestleMania 36 match against Seth Rollins. That's because, in one of the most memorable moments of the night, Kevin Owens stood on the WrestleMania sign itself, leaped off, and put Seth Rollins through the announce table. It was an incredible spot, will surely be remembered as a highlight of Kevin Owens' WWE run, but at the same time, it may have taken a bit of a toll on his body. We never really knew the extent of the injury. Apparently, Owens was going to get x-rayed to determine the severity of it, but it seems, thankfully, to have not been so severe because he is back and in action as of last night. Owens returned to host a segment of his talk show and in the end played a bit of a focal point role in last night's Raw, with various different things going on around it. Even before he'd hit the ring, Natalya was trashing his set in an apparent heel turn, and the storyline developments didn't just stop there with her. Once Natalya had left the ring and, Kevin Owens had started his talk show properly, he invited Zelina Vega's stable to the ring and then invited out Apollo Crews, who of course has recently been in a feud with Andrade. Of course, when Cruz hit the ring, a brawl broke out, and this led to a tag match later on in the night with Owens teaming with Apollo Crews against two of Zelina's boys. And it was the babyface team who picked up the big feel-good victory, taking advantage of a miscommunication by Austin Theory. This obviously is a nice little victory for Apollo Crews particularly because of course he sustained an injury recently against Andrade, which kept him out of the Money in the Bank ladder match. That was a match he had rightly of course qualified for, but this victory surely keeps him in and around Andrade's US title scene. But the drama and the storyline developments didn't stop there, as Austin Theory was then apparently kicked out of Zelina Vega's stable for making the mistake, and then later on seemed to be taken under the wing of a certain Seth Rollins. Now of course Owens and Rollins didn't face each other on the show, and it looks as though their feud, which did culminate at WrestleMania 36 of course, has ended. But then you never know, because of course there are other feuds that we've seen from WrestleMania that have rumbled on in the months since, especially of course Edge and Randy Orton, which we'll be talking about a little bit later on. But it's interesting that in his first show back, Owens was kind of at the middle of all these different storylines going on, kind of surrounded by various different things. Natalia's breakdown, Austin Theory jumping sides, and it remains to be seen where Kevin Owens himself goes next. I wonder who he's going to be feuding with, what he's going to be doing. Maybe it'll be him taking on Andrade for the US title. I guess it all remains to be seen. Now, as I mentioned, let's talk about Edge and Randy Orton, because Edge did accept Randy Orton's challenge for a normal singles match, and that is set to take place at Backlash. Backlash is WWE's next scheduled pay-per-view and is set to take place on June 14th, of course, in front of an empty arena. And this whole match came about in the aftermath really of WrestleMania 36, where of course Edge beat Randy Orton in a very intense last man standing match, a very divisive one as well given its length and the fact that it had to make do in front of no crowd despite being a bit of a wild brawl. But yes, Edge did win the match, and it looked as though that feud was all said and done and Edge could move on to different things, and so could Orton in fairness. But Orton wasn't ready to let it go. He came out on an episode of Raw and said, Edge, the better man may have won that match, but the better wrestler certainly didn't. Orton then challenged Edge to a wrestling match, a normal singles match, to prove once and for all who is the best wrestler, and yeah, Edge accepted that challenge last night. Now, WWE's marketing around this match has been very strange indeed, as you may have noticed. That's because WWE have been hyping this as potentially the best match ever. There have been some tweets recently that seem almost tongue-in-cheek, saying things like, oh, it's a certified 5-star with all the star emojis, classic. And I'm just thinking, why would you do that? Why would you hype up a match so much? Especially between two guys who, let's be honest, aren't in their prime, even though they can both still very much go in the ring. I just don't get the strategy here. And I'm not even saying that the match won't be good. Hopefully it will be. I hope it will. And certainly Edge and Orton have the capability to put on a good match. I know that we've only really seen Edge in either the Royal Rumble or this one hardcore stipulation match at WrestleMania. However, he did seem fully capable of wrestling again in the ring, and I'm not, doubting the fact that he could put on a very good match with Randy Orton. Likewise, we all know Randy Orton's game by now. Incredibly solid fundamentals, one of the best instincts in wrestling history, one of the best senses of timing ever, but of course is often criticized for playing it safe a little bit. But if you look at both guys' ability levels, I mean, they're going to be two of the biggest, most popular legends in WWE history when all's said and done. So yeah, of course they can still put on a good match. I just don't know why WWE are hyping it as maybe the greatest match ever. But I guess on the other hand, it has got me interested in the match. It's got me intrigued. I'm thinking, well, where's this going to go if they're hyping it up so much? So maybe that was the marketing strategy after all. Maybe it's worked. Now at the moment, I believe that is the only match officially confirmed for Backlash 2020, but it seems very likely that we're heading for a WWE title match between the champion Drew McIntyre and his apparent next challenger, Bobby Lashley. The reason I say this is because at the end of Raw last night, Lashley squared off with Drew in the middle of the ring, following Drew's match with SmackDown's Baron Corbin. And it seems like Lashley's new mentor, new manager, whatever you want to call it, MVP, has kind of encouraged him to push for the title, and it seems like he could be getting involved in proceedings. And finally, an update on the upcoming Double or Nothing pay-per-view, which is taking place this weekend. That's come around very quickly indeed, but I'm very excited. The card looks really good, and we do have an update on that casino ladder match. Now, this isn't a traditional ladder match. It's more of a staggered entry kind of thing, almost like a Royal Rumble mixed with a ladder match, I guess, or a gauntlet match. No, more of a Royal Rumble mixed with a ladder match. It's a bit of a strange one, but we'll see how it plays out. It could be very entertaining, and also the winner, of course, receives an AEW World Title shot in the future. There are 9 participants in this match, of which 8 have been revealed already. I'll just run through those names now. Darby Allin, Colt Cabana, Orange Cassidy, Rey Fenix, Scorpio Sky, Kip Sabian, Frankie Kazarian, and Luchasaurus. But obviously that's only 8 names. There's still 1 to be confirmed, and that won't be confirmed until the night itself. AEW have announced that 9th spot will remain a mystery spot, and we won't know who it is until they make their entrance. Now, this has opened the door to a lot of possibilities and a lot of speculation. A lot of people have been suggesting that it could even, and I think this is a little bit of a stretch, but you never know in wrestling, but a lot of people have been saying this could be Sting, who has of course been rumoured to be appearing at Double or Nothing in some capacity, and as we recently learned, is no longer contracted with WWE. However, in, I guess, AEW fashion, the spot could be given to one of their bright young stars who really is, I guess, the future of this promotion. People such as Sammy Guevara, or potentially Hangman Page, which would make sense given the fact that we haven't seen him for quite some time, given obviously the current circumstances. I've also got a bit of a theory to throw in the mix. Elsewhere on the card, MJF is taking on Jungle Boy in just a normal singles match, and I'm surprised because I think that those are both guys that you'd probably want in the casino ladder match if you were, if you were behind the scenes at AEW. They're 2 of the brightest young stars in the promotion. So I think maybe the winner of that match will go on to the ladder match, or maybe even the loser of the match will. Can you imagine MJF losing to Jungle Boy earlier in the night, then coming out and winning the casino ladder match? It's despicable, but of course, it's MJF. I don't know, it could even be a surprise debut from elsewhere in the wrestling world, who is to say, but it does give us a little bit of intrigue for Double or Nothing. Now, let's run down the rest of the card. Jon Moxley will defend the AEW World Championship against Brody Lee. Cody will take on Lance Archer in the final of the TNT Championship Tournament. As I mentioned, MJF will take on Jungle Boy, of course. We've got the casino ladder match. Nyla Rose will defend her AEW Women's title against Hikaru Shida. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, will take on Chris Statlander. Matt Hardy and the Elite will go against the Inner Circle in a Stadium Stampede match. And on the pre-show, Private Party will take on the Best Friends to decide the #1 tag team contenders. So that's it for this very sad news video. Obviously, a lot of quite distressing news to get through there. My recommended match is the Tag Team Turmoil match from New Year's Revolution 2007, a match featuring Primetime in which we get to see Shad Gaspard in action. Thanks very much for watching. Leave your thoughts in the comments section down below. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com, and I will see you very soon.